Hi, I'm Katie, and this is episode 106 of Ornamentations, and I have a supersized episode for you today, so get ready with your stitching. I have whips, I have finishes, we have the registration of the new Damascene Rose class, and then also I'll look back at some past finishes. We are going to have a full year-to-date review of my ornament finishes from the 12 by 12 series so far, and then I'm also going to be sharing some favorite past fall finishes to celebrate the season, because it is finally starting to feel like fall here. And oh, thank goodness for that, because I was so sick of summer. There is a lot of cross stitching in this episode, but we are going to start with the biggest news in my world, which is the Damascene Rose class, a new offering from Katie Strachan Artisan Embroidery, which is now open for registration. There is a full kit unboxing at the very end of this video, but I'm just going to give you a few details on the project and the class before we move on to other pieces. So the Damascene Rose, which is now open for registration, is $375, which is payable in full, at which point your class kit will ship immediately, or in 3-month interest-free installments. You can sign up on my website. The course is 5 months, and it begins on February 1st, 2025. All of my classes are strictly work at your own pace, so if you are also in the Britomart Sampler course, there's no problem with taking the two together. You can put this project away for a future date and stitch it when you have time for it. Not a problem at all. I also don't have requirements about prior experience for my students. If you would like to learn, I would love to teach you. I think this course is a great introduction to needle lace for those who haven't attempted it before. If you've been admiring some of my casket stitching, this is actually, I think, a really great place to start. So this course explores needle lace in depth. We have a lot of different applications of it. So it's worked attached on the ground. It's also worked detached and later applied to the ground. And then it's worked with a lot of variations in in thread and return. As part of that, we're using a lot of really interesting and varied threads as part of the course, some of which were specially made for this course, and that means that this is probably going to be the only time that I'm able to offer this class. It's going to be really difficult to get all of these materials together again. So I think the Damascene Rose is probably a one-time offering, but one that I'm really excited about. I think the project is absolutely beautiful. We're really focusing on the basic building block stitch of needle lace, which is detached buttonhole, but looking at all of the different ways in which you work it, in which changing your thread or changing your return varies how you approach the stitch, how you handle your thread, and really giving you a very deep knowledge of that stitch and enabling you to move forward with stump work if you like to. One critical concept that we talk about a lot is curving needle lace, which is essential if you want to go further with stump work. So we're going to start with some very gentle curves on the stems and then the ground beneath the rows before moving into more aggressive curving and shaping in the petals. Working needle lace in a straight line is great, but being able to shape your needle lace is better and allows you to do a lot more with it, and so that's also a critical concept in the Damascene Rose. It's also just a really beautiful project, I think, but that's a lot of the focus. This is my first time teaching stump work through Katie Strachan Artisan Embroidery, and I'm very excited to share it with you. This course, the project also has another interesting feature. So as you see my finish, I have finished this on a wood panel with a gilt woven tape edging. Those are not included in the class. The kit is just for the actual embroidery that you see here. So why did I do that, might you ask? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. And that's because of the way that this design has been sized and conceived. So it can actually fit perfectly into a Thistle Threads casket. I had hoped to have all the interior finishing done here today. Didn't get to that, hoping I can show you what this would actually look like next time, but this is an idea. So this is the interior of a lid. This is for my slope top casket, which is where this will go. And this is the Damascene Rose flanked by 2 velvet covered doors. The interior assembly kit was a separate offering from Thistle Threads. If you don't have that, so mine's on the panel from that thing, so you can actually drop it right onto your kit if you do have it. If you don't have it, oh, just look at with that fabulous green velvet, love it. If you don't have that, you can actually still drop this exactly as is into the lid of a Thistle Threads casket. You would just flank it with a paper, mirror, or fabric of your choice. Beautiful, right? I love it. So that would be one way to go about it. And that's the clasp piece exactly as I have designed it. However, sorry, had to put that down. As part of the class, I have designed an extended template for which you would need extra materials, but you could extend it using the alternate provided template into a full casket panel, which is sized to be a lid of a Thistle Threads casket. So it could either be the exterior of a lid or the interior of a lid, and that is patterned after the interior lid of my own finished green casket. So if you've ever wanted to do a casket panel from me, this is your chance. And as I said, you will need extra materials if you want to do that. And I'm not providing detailed instructions on the full panel design. I didn't actually stitch it myself, but there will be suggested materials and stitches included as part of that. And they all build off of what you learn in the class. So by the time you've done the class stitching, you would be fully competent to work the extended design. So more details are on my website. Also, if you have questions, please feel free to contact me using the contact form on my website. And if you've ever been intrigued by needle lace or stump work, I hope you will give this a try. Mastering needle lace opens up new worlds. I also think this is just a really, really beautiful, beautiful project, and it's incredibly textured and super sparkly, although the camera doesn't pick that up very well. So the Damascene Rose is now open for registration. A full kit unboxing is at the very end of this Flosstube, and I really hope you'll join me. And with that, let's get to cross stitch, which will be the rest of this episode. So we're going to start with my finish, which we saw as a ongoing project last time, and that is Stacy Nash Let Love Grow. This will be the first Flosstube kit for 2026, offered for Valentine's Day, and I think you're going to love this. I'm so pleased with how this turned out. So this has been stitched, finished, and fully blocked. It's all smooth and pretty, and so it's now ready to be FFO'd. I'm going to do it in an elongated pillow shape like Stacy Nash did, and then I'm thinking like a lovely pink crystal briolet edging is the way to go on this. So hopefully I will have an FFO to show you next time, but I do have finished stitching to show you this time, and oh, isn't it pretty? I just love the brightness of those colors and the way that they just pop on the linen here, which is 38 count legacy linen Wayfarer's Cloak. It's a great medium gray, and it really brings those colors alive. Most of the design, the top flowers and the dove, are pretty much exactly as Stacy Nash designed them in the way that I deployed the colors. Mine are just a touch brighter, my greens are a little greener, but otherwise that's pretty much exactly as she did it. The only place where I really tweaked things a little was in the rose. I used much more blue and much more green. If we look at the original model, which features a higher use of yellow here. I just thought that what went a little better with the colors that I used on the ground linen that I used was that. So I just tweaked how I used the colors. The conversion could be used exactly as Stacy Nash has charted it if you prefer her version, but oh, I thought that was so pretty. I love it. So, oh, I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. Those pinks, oh, I die for those pinks. They're glorious. So that is Let Love Grow. And then I hope to have an FFO, an embellished FFO to show you next time. And then next whip, before we get to ornament finishes and fall finishes, is the ongoing mystery sampler whip, on which I have very little to show you. I think I only stitched for 2 days on this since I saw you last. It's been a really busy time around here assembling all those Damascene Rose kits, getting ready for class launch. But I did do a little, so I'm going to show it to you anyways. I have pulled the border down a little further and finished just a few berries. I hope that's showing. It's right in front of my face, so it's hard to tell. I've extended the grass just a little bit on the far sides. Here it's actually almost at halfway on that point. I've pulled the parterre edges around just a little bit so you can get a better sense of how that's going to develop, and then I started putting it in on this side. So yeah, not really overwhelming progress, but that's what I've got for you, and still quite neat on the back. So for next time, I'm going to hope to have this border up and turned here just to make sure that everything is correct. I'm going to keep on pulling the grass and the parterres downwards. Right now this piece does look, I think, overly symmetrical, but there is some asymmetry coming in here that you just can't see yet. So there will be trees flanking the house. They are not symmetrical. And then the parterres are going to have flowers inside them, and then they are not going to be symmetrical as well, because while I like a good, organized, clean, linear design, you can take a thing too far. So this does need just a little bit of touch of something off kilter, I think, to give it more personality, and that should really help kind of just give it that special spark. So that's the mystery sampler, which, oh yeah, still doesn't have a name, but you know, one day it will. And then, ooh, this is exciting. Sorry, the couch is absolutely covered in things today, so pardon my reach. And then my next whip is the Prairie Schooler 2018 Santa. We saw my wimpy mini start on this last time, and it has actually developed to the point where I think you can see where I am going with this. And ooh, I am so pleased. It looks rockin'. Check that out. Are those colors fantastic or what? I think they're fantastic. I really like them. Nobody else has to like them. I like them. So this is stitched on legacy linen, 38 count Wayfarer's Cloak. The same as Let Love Grow, actually. It's totally different effects with different kind of color palettes used on them. But it is a great ground color that really makes bright colors come alive. So I have really brightened up the colors from the traditional Prairie Schooler Santa, as inspired by what Lori Holt has been doing with her Prairie Schooler Santa stitches. And I am working down on the snowman, and I am getting into Santa. So I have almost a complete conversion ready for you. There's just one color here. I will put an asterisk next to it that hasn't been used yet. I have added an extra gray because I haven't used it yet though. I have theoretically added an extra gray. The bright pinky red is just so dominant that I really want to keep it centered on the Santa. If you look at the Prairie Schooler, they've got it in his scarf and in his hat. I think the snowman might look best with kind of like a middle gray hat and then just an all green scarf like the Santa has, and then you just keep that pop focused on the Santa. So I am thinking I'm going to add another color for the Santa hat, and that's going to be what is with an asterisk in the description. So this is coming along fabulously, and I hope to have a finish for you next time, but I do have a complete conversion minus the one thread that I maybe haven't used yet. No, not maybe, I actually haven't used yet. That maybe might change before the next time I see you, but everything else has been used and is final. So pretty close to a complete conversion, and I'm reasonably far on this. This is a very stitch heavy Prairie Schooler Santa, so hoping for a finish next time. This is my October 12 by 12. And before we get to the 12 by 12 review, I have a surprise finish to show you. I didn't stitch this myself. My mom got really inspired by the 12 by 12 and joined in. She made me the most fabulous ornament, and this is her take on a sub Rosa design. Santa is coming, so that's the full piece, and this is what my mom did. Is this fantastic or what? For one thing, check out that awesome hanger. And then she contracted the design to make it a little more ornamenty size. She removed the words. Like myself, my mom doesn't love stitching letters. You know, it's funny. We influence each other a lot, and I think you can see that in this piece, but we also kind of just have a lot of the same tastes, such as hate stitching letters. So we've always both loved fuzzy Santa beards. That's from when we both used to do needlepoint, and some of the things that you can see I've influenced her on are the beaded hanger, but some of these things are her own tricks. So replacing white, or in this case the stars were actually gold, with silver is one of her tricks that I've started co-opting for my own designs. And then this is all a silk conversion that she did herself on Legacy Linen, which is a place I have influenced her. Oh, isn't he so cute? And I mean, it just kind of shows her eye for things, because I have to admit, I wouldn't have thought to do this, which I loved, from this slightly larger piece. How to take it down and make it into a great ornament size was her own particular genius. It's fabulous. The colors are great. He's so cute. I love it. And then one thing about the hangers, this is a mix of 6mm bugles and some crystal bicones. My mom laughed when she gave me this. She said she wanted, the reason she bought all the bugles was that she wanted to use them on the leaves, the way I did on the Stacy Nash gingerbread house, but she couldn't find the beads. So I always list those in the description of every episode. Well, and I list whatever's used in the description of that episode, but she didn't know how to access that. And just in case she's not the only one, I'm gonna tell you right here. So this would be something that you do on a device, a phone, a tablet, a laptop, a desktop. I don't think you can do this from your TV. So if you scroll down to under the video, I'm gonna insert a photo here, you're gonna see a see more under the episode title. If you click see more, that box is going to expand, and that's where I put all of the links, the information, and beads. So she actually just went on a crazy bead buying spree. She told me she couldn't find what she needed, and now she has all these beads she doesn't need. But the upside of that was that she just kind of mashed them together into a really great, fun ornament hanger. Oh, I love it. Isn't it so cute? So that is my mom's finish, which she made for me of Santa is Coming by Sub Rosa Designs. Absolutely fabulous. So another treasure to add to my tree. Oh, life is great. Life is great. So with that, we are going to do the year-to-date 12 by 12 review. I'm going to pause this for just a second, move things around, and then we're going to look at what have I been stitching on the 12 by 12. 12 by 12 review. Quick recap. So if you haven't been following along, I, with some friends, Karen of Fox and Rabbit and Michelle of Mama Loves You GB, and hopefully some of you following along at home as well, have been stitching a 12 by 12, one ornament for every month, with the goal of having 12 new ornaments at the end of the year. And one great thing about the 12 by 12 is that it gives you some ready-made gifts before the madness of the holiday season comes along. So the Prairie Schooler Santa in Progress is my October 12 by 12, which is why I need to have it finished before the next time I see you to keep on track. But so far I am actually up to date. Two of my finishes have already found their way to a new home in the Netherlands, so those will just be seen in photos. And then the chronological order is a little sketchy here. I'm not exactly sure I have these in strict order, but I do have finishes to show, so that's what we're going to do. The year started off short and sweet with a Pineberry Lane. This is one of the Merry Little Stitches, which I stitched on Legacy Linen 45 count Fuller's Teasel with Soie Surfine, and then I embellished it with fuzzy stuff. If you're not familiar with that, I like to use that to over embellish Santa beards on cross stitch. I do have a tutorial on that. I'll link that in the description. And then I added some just little 2mm round crystal pearls. This is really tiny. It's only just slightly larger than a standard spool of silk thread. Super fast to work up. Great gift. Actually, such a great gift that I made two of these. Not sure which month the second one was, but I had repeats because it's just a great idea, I think, to have some just small, easy gifts stashed away. One thing I do at the end of every holiday season is when I'm taking my tree down, I look at it very carefully and I think of one thing that I would be ready to pass on to a loved one. I put that away in my gift box, ready as a gift for next year. And then as I'm finishing my Christmas stitching, I try to make sure to have a finish ready to put away for gifting season next year, so that I start off with some handmade gifts ready for when I need them. I'm a psycho planner, so if that's not really your thing, just having a couple quick stitches on hand might be more your thing. So for everything that I'm showing here where I've got a past conversion, I will link that in the description. And then after that, I did the two ornaments which are no longer in my possession. They were for my friends. The first one was an original design. This was a embellished wool felt applique in the design of a stork. Hopefully I'm inserting a photo here to celebrate the birth of their son. And then for March, I did my take on something that my mom had made for me. So this is mine that my mom made several years ago, and this is a Victoria Sampler design, and it celebrated the house that I'm living in right now. She made it for me when I moved in here as a Christmas ornament, and I'm very sentimental. I love objects that kind of mark a significant period or time or event in your life. So this has always been a meaningful and cherished ornament for me. So I decided to make one for my friends to commemorate their new home that they were moving into, and hopefully I'm inserting a photo of that here. I'm pretty sure I have one and I can find it. But since I loved receiving that as a gift so much myself, I thought it was a great thing to make. So those are both with my friends who have assured me that they love them. I think they actually just hung them on cabinet knobs because it wasn't Christmas at that point. And then I think the next ones up were my Prairie Schooler Santas. I can't actually think off the top of my head what year this is, but this is my first version. So I've been playing for a while with the idea of brighter, pinker, kind of vintage Christmassy versions of some classics inspired by Larry Holt, and this was my first take for a full-size Prairie Schooler Santa. This is on Legacy Linen 40 count Coastal Haze, and I really love experimenting with color and what small tweaks can do. So for the following month I did the same one again, but on 38 count colors teasel. And yeah, that's just a 2-thread difference on count, but yeah, it does really affect the size. I always find that crazy how much things change. So the conversion I think was actually identical. Pretty sure. They'll both be linked in the description, if not. So yeah, I do have some repeats, but you know what? A lot of these are going to become gifts, so that works for me. And then next was the ornament version of the Stacy Nash gingerbread house. So this I did after Christmas last year. This is not the ornament version. This is on 37 Legacy Linen Smoke Signal. It's not yet finished. I will do that before it goes on display for the upcoming holiday season. Just haven't gotten there yet. But I liked this so much, and the size isn't huge. I thought this would be great as a true ornament hang on a tree thing. So that was what I did. This is on Legacy Linen 45 count Nightingale. It has a crystal briolette edging, and then I embellished the garlands with smaller beads to suit the smaller counts. The 3mm bugles were just too big for the 45 count. The conversion's a little different. This is Soie Surfine on the 45 count, and then that's my finish. And then for the next month, I did a Stacy Nash Animal Cracker. This is Paisley, and I did it on 48 count Legacy Linen and finished it as an ornament. I do think I'm gonna take this one apart and refinish it because she's too flat. She needs to be padded out and shaped. So, because this wasn't one of my 12 by 12s, but I also did Whitaker, and my finishing on him is pretty wonky, so don't look too closely, but I do like that they're supposed to be shaped. So I'm steeling myself to make some revisions to Paisley because this stitching turned out so cute. She deserves better finishing. And again, this is Soie Surfine on Legacy Linen 48 count, which makes her, she's a larger ornament, but still going to look great on a tree. So stay tuned. I'm going to take this apart. I'm really going to pad the mat board and then refinish it and hopefully just shape her a little better. And then this I know is September. This is a segment of the back of the Stacy Nash gingerbread house sewing book. Because my ornament version, it has this, it's just gonna be on the back of the tree. You're not gonna see this. And I thought the little fireplace scene was so cute. So I stitched this on 38 count Legacy Linen filbert, and then that enabled me to use the bugle beads for the garlands, which I really love. So this is just something fun, small, and cute. It was super easy to work up and stitch together. So that's where we are on the 12 by 12. I will be current year to date when I finish my October, which is the 2018 Prairie Schooler Santa. And so I hope you found something to inspire you in that, or you just enjoyed looking at some things, which we have all seen before. None of those are actually new, but oh, Christmas is my theme music, so I always really enjoy revisiting that. However, for something a little more seasonal, I have pulled some favorite fall finishes, and now we're going to take a brief look at those. Also, I've just remembered I promised you a conversion. So last time I showed you I had gotten the Not Forgotten Farm Chart Halloween sweep bag, and said I would suggest a conversion, even though I'm not going to get to it for this year. Definitely on my list for next year. So my suggested linen for this is Legacy Linen at 38 count Wayfarer's Cloak, and my colors actually all come from this piece. So I would actually use the same green. This is Goblin's 152, my very dark gray 671. And then you could use the same orange. This is 615. That is the nose on the snowman. I was gonna say Santa, but he doesn't have an orange nose. Or you could sub a slightly richer Goblin's. I think that's actually what I'm going to do. This is 2625, but if you wanted, you can actually pull all of these from this. Keep an inventory of what you have on silk and use it. It makes stitching with silk a lot more economical because, yeah, colors overlap in really unexpected and interesting ways. So this only uses 3 threads. If you're looking to try Goblin's for the first time, for example, this would be a really great place to start because it's not a ton of colors. So with that, let's get to fall finishes. None of these are new. They are all from previous years, but I thought it would be fun to take a look. Okay, so we're going to start with something that I didn't actually make myself. I think I've shown on this channel before, but just in case not. This was stitched and gifted to me by my mom a few years ago, and this is one of the Just Nan Mice in a House series. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this is the Halloween mouse in a house, and it is just so cute. I love all the details on that. The funky pumpkin stack, the ghost, the little orchard, which, oh look, tiny ghost, and then more Halloween scenes, and then as always there's a really fun elaborate scene on the bottom. So that's the house, and then this is our little witchy mouse. This would be stitched with DMC on called for 32 count. We never mess with just Nan's mice because then the sizing gets all off. So 2/2, 32 count. So adorable. I doubt that this is still available because the mice in a house tend to be pretty limited availability, but probably secondary market if you love this, which, oh my God, I love this. This comes out every year and it is a treasured piece. The rest are all ones I stitched myself and which we've definitely seen on this channel before, but since I'm not actually doing any seasonal fall stitching this year, it is really busy around here at the moment. I thought that would be a fun way to share a little fall since I don't have any fall whips. So this is Stacy Nash Good Witch Pinkeep, and this I stitched with Soie Surfine on Legacy Linen 45 count foxtail millet. I think I said Fuller's Teasel on my 45 count finishes. Sorry, the 45 count is foxtail millet, and I love these because of the bodacious silk bow. And then I did, this is variation on the crystal briolette edging, but it's a knife edge briolette, which is called a roundel. So that's the Good Witch Pinkeep. And those I think are only my, no, actually this is a Halloween finish too. I love fall stitching more than Halloween specifically. I know Halloween is a really big thing for a lot of people. For me, the holiday is Christmas, everything else is secondary. And this is Jack's House by Stacy Nash, which is stitched on Legacy Linen 48 count Himalayan Fog. Again, original silk conversion. I'll link that in the description. I love this one. I love putting things on gray linen, it makes colors sing. It's a little unexpected, as you have no doubt noticed from this episode. One of my favorite tricks, but oh, so effective. Love that. I really enjoyed that piece. And then this one's a little older. This is Plum Street Thistle House. This is my take on it. There's supposed to be a woman on one of these. I just did 2 rows of thistles flanking the house. This is on 38 count Irish coffee. This isn't necessarily fall, but the colors, I think especially the ground linen, always make me think fall, and so that tends to be when I bring this one out. So one thing you might notice, it's definitely not cross stitch or those fluffy thistle heads. That's Soie Surfine. The color there's definitely 741. And I used it in cut turkey stitch, which with Soie Surfine, when you fluff it, oh man. So that's actually my favorite feature about this, are those dimensional thistle heads. So that's Thistle House by Plum Street Samplers. Again, that one's not fall, but I always keep it with my fall finishes. And then we also have my current fall kit, which is still available, and that's Stacy Nash Gather Thy Harvest Pinkeep. Again, we have a gray, although this is a much more blue purple toned gray, 38 count sea serpent, and I love stitching leaves and kind of more flowing vines and natural shapes, so I really enjoyed this piece. So past conversions are going to be linked in the description. I hope you found something to inspire you, and then we are going to take a brief look at haul. So I have just a little haul. I don't normally show when I just like restock things. Oh, I was out of Soie Goblins blank. I bought a few more spools. But I was taking stock of my linen stash, thinking about upcoming Christmas stitching, and decided I needed more of a few things. Ordered a big batch and thought I would share it just in terms of like, how do I use my stash going forward? How do I think about it? Maybe that'll be helpful, and then we will also compare the colors. So I am really enjoying putting Christmas ornaments on slightly higher counts. So we already saw the Bright Jolly Old Elf, which is 45 count foxtail millet, 45 count nightingale, 48 count bride cake. It lets you take something a little larger and make it more ornament sized, or take something that's already ornament sized and make it tiny, which I love. So I had fat halves of a lot of these things, but you know what, I do go through them, so I thought it was time to stock up, and so I bought a bunch of 45 counts from Hoop and Frame. The first one was a fat half of Nightingale, which is the color I used on Gingerbread House, and which I just can't get enough of, so stocked up. It occurred to me after I bought these that I had actually gotten yards on some of this color, and I had to go run and make sure that was filbert, and I didn't now have a yard and a half of 45 count. So nope, thankfully. You know what, if I had a yard and a half, I'm sure I would have gotten through it eventually, honestly. Oh, and I meant to show you another older ornament finish that was also tiny. So this is also on 48 count, and this is the Merry Christmas Hanging Sampler by Pineberry Lane. This is my version of it for myself, which is the design is charted. If you're a hockey fan who watches this channel, you might remember that last year I stitched this twice, and the first version said Merry Christmas to everyone except Matthew Kachuk. I made that for my brother, and then I like the design so much, especially on the beautiful 48 count. Did I say 48 5 count? This is on 48 count. Sorry, I'm all over the place today. I stitched it for myself. Absolutely gorgeous. That's been where a lot of my ornament stitching is trending, and so that's why I was like, need more. I also got a fat half of the 45 count foxtail millet. It's another past 45 count ornament finish on this. You know, the thing is, these are small, but by the time you cut enough margin to stitch with, I can go through these. I do a lot of ornament stitching. I needed to be prepared. So foxtail mode is the equivalent of followed this teasel. It's just a really great tan. Same color for Good Witch Pinkeep. And so then I got a fat quarter of Hazy Summit, which is the 45 count. Okay, that's better color representation of Himalayan Fog. And then this is an ornament I've stitched on 45 count Hazy Summit. This is Stacy Nash. Deck the Halls Pinkeep. Deck the Halls ornament. Deck the Halls is definitely the name of it. Oh, I'm useless. But yeah, I love her like funky woman with a bow. Seasonal finishes, and I love them on 45 count with Soie Surfine and fun embellishments. Did you see nothing here? And then I also found that there was a color I didn't have in Legacy Linen. Blows my mind. And this is a 5363 Woodland Bower, and I got a fat quarter because this is a beautiful gray. It's a little more, it's definitely more blue than Wayfarer's Cloak, but this would be great. You know what would be so fun? A tiny Prairie Schooler Santa. I think this is a thing that needs to happen in my life. So I just enabled that by getting myself a fat quarter. So that's my haul. Those were all things I thought I needed more of in my linen stash as I look forward to Christmas. It's only October, but I'm as bad as the retailers, all like, oh, bring on Christmas. Oh well. So I'm stocked up and I'm ready. And then last news item before we close out the episode. The second lesson of the Britomart Sampler course is going to be posted tomorrow. An email will go out to all students with a link to the lesson, which you can also access just by logging into Thinkific, and it'll take you back to where you left off in the course. The second lesson is going to cover the second band of the Britomart Sampler, and good news, this lesson is a lot easier. For one thing, there's less stitching. For another thing, there's no super complicated tortured path if you are stitching reversibly, although I continue to be just so incredibly impressed by my students and how much you guys are absolutely rocking the reversible stitching, even though I know this was not the easiest place to start. You guys are killing it, and it's amazing to see. So please keep on sharing those starts and progress, because it makes my day every single time. We are bringing in some new things in this band. So one of those is when you have blocks of satin stitch that meet on an open weave like linen, how do you do that to get it cleanly with no gapping? That's something that features a lot on this sampler, and this is the first place we're going to be taking a look at that. And then also, how do you integrate diamond stitch into a larger path? So here we have it as part of the rose outline. We did diamond stitch in the first band, but it was just essentially in isolation. It's hanging out on the end of those motifs in the border. So then how do you work it into a path is something we look at this lesson. That's all been diagrammed for you. You don't have to figure that out, but so it's just an example of how we're building skills as you move through the sampler, although for the most part, I think this lesson is a lot easier in the stitching. The band's smaller, it's not complicated. The borders, very, very simple after this guy. So hopefully, good breather, reinforce your skills, reinforce your comfort level with the Britomart Sampler. If you would like to join us, please do. I've got kits in stock on my website, and it's absolutely not too late to join the class. If you would like to follow along with student work, I am reposting everything that I see on @Britomart Sampler on Instagram. It's under repost. So really excited, and the first lesson goes up tomorrow. And then last news item, one of the giveaways on the Mother of Pearl Thread Winders, which was the Pearl Basket winner, keyword basket, has not been claimed. Last call, winner, Casey Kohler, 1766, sorry. Ugh. Please claim this before the next episode or I will redraw, and that's for the basket shaped Mother of Pearl needle minder from Jackie Duplessis. So that brings me to the end of this episode, although stay tuned for the full kit unboxing on the Damascene Rose. For the next time, I hope to have some FFOs for you, a start on my November 12 by 12, which I think is just going to be stunning. I'm really excited about that. And then fingers crossed that I get a little more work in on the mystery sampler, because if I keep up at my current rate, it is never going to be finished. So stay tuned for the unboxing of the Damascene Rose kit. Registration is now open for this class, and I really hope that you will consider joining me for a beautiful project. I will see you again in 2 weeks, and until then, happy stitching. This is a full kit unboxing of the Damascene Rose class with the finished scene here. Note that what I have finished the panel on, this wood panel with the gilt woven trim at the edge, is not included in the class. What's included in the class kit is everything to make the base embroidery. The way that I've finished this is as part of a larger finishing kit from Thistle Threads, and that's not included. But your class kit does include everything else that you will need to make this, except for the frame that you will want to work this on. Frames are fully covered in the class, so if you don't already have a frame and stand set up, don't worry, we will get to that. And with that, let's take a look at what is inside the class kit for the Damascene Rose. So I've just got a postcard with a little bit of information about the class, and then we will get to the good stuff. So we have the ground fabric, which is Legacy Linen 45 count jersey cream. Nothing on this is counted, and you're not really trying to find the holes. You're just going straight through the fabric with sharp needles. So don't let the count put you off. It just gives you a really lovely ground to stitch on. And it has been pre-printed with the full design. So that's your linen. And then we have the different embellishments that are added to the top of the rose. So there is a crystal, a bead, and a spangle for the center of the rose. But there are also some really delicate little crystals, I don't know if you can see that, on the stem to just kind of light it up and give it a little depth. And those are your stem crystals. And then we have a package of gilt threads and the Soie Surfine that is used to couch them out. So there's a full yard of the handmade gilt scallop trim. That's what edges all the petals and then makes up the fabulous gilded rosebud as part of the rose. And then we have small cuts of some decorative gilt threads that are used to embellish the piece, like the fantastic number 8 S check, which is couched down in swirls over the stem to help give that a little pattern, texture, and depth. So those are your gold threads. And then we have a couple of fun textured green threads. There's Satiné Silk Gimp, which is the really textured thick gimp that's used as the return in your ground on the Damascene Rose. And then Gilt Silk Twist Vitruve, which is the exclusive green color for Katie Strachan Artisan Embroidery. It was also used in the pin pillow, but it's used quite heavily on the Damascene Rose as well. If you're not familiar with Gilt Silk Twist, it is a wonderful thread, and some of the quirks of handling and how best to use it are also fully covered in the class. And then we have the really good stuff. This is your silk thread palette for the course, which is really limited. We have only 2 different colors of green that are very close in tone, and then 2 colors of pink, but there are a number of different threads in the same green. We have Satiné Silk Gimp, Gilt Silk Twist, Soie Goblins, Soie de Paris, and Soie Oval. So how you take a very limited color palette and work with different threads and different textures to get a varied look and lots of depth is a big part of this course. So not a ton of colors, but a bunch of really interesting different threads to play with here. And again, all of that fully covered in the course. Then you have a piece of muslin. This is used as the temporary ground to work your detached needle lace on, again, covered in the course. And then all your needles. There are a lot of them because of the different number of fibers that we are working with in this course. Each of the threads that are provided needs a specific needle for best results, and that's why we have this many. My mom put the needle packs together and was like, Katie, do they really need all these needles? Yes, you really do, because using the correct needle for the correct thread means that you're not fighting your thread and you're gonna have an easier time using it. And then our final things in the box are your hard copy templates. So there are templates for the needle lace pieces that are the detached petals of the rose, and then the green sepal of the rosebud. And then there is also a hard copy template of the piece itself, just in case you want to change your linen, something happens to your original. I find it's always best to provide a backup. There is also going to be a full panel template so that you could extend this piece into a full casket panel sized for a Thistle Threads casket. However, that is going to be provided as a PDF download as a supplement to lesson 1, since I think most of you are probably just going to stitch the Damascene Rose as is. I didn't want to add to the cost of the kit by doing a hard copy for everyone. So that's what's needed to make the Damascene Rose, as well as a frame and a working setup, which, as I said, we will cover in lesson 1. So I hope you will consider joining me on the wonderful adventure that is this class. I will see you again in 2 weeks, and until then, happy stitching.